Hello everybody. Well, let's talk about inverses again. This time let's talk about restricting the domain. As just the name says, we are going to have to restrict the domain, and I'll try to explain why. So if we have a function, the red one, see right here, f of x, and it looks like this. Now we know that this function because it is going to easily pass a vertical line test wherever we try, right? Doesn't matter where we put a vertical line, we can't hit the graph more than one time. So we know it's a function. But now if you take a look at the inverse of that function, and we know inverse is graphically simply a reflection over the 45-degree line, right? Y equals x line. So if we reflect this red function, we will get this graph right here. Well, this graph will not pass a vertical line test. See, we can hit the graph more than one time with a vertical line, right? So we know that this graph does not represent a function. But often we actually need it to be a function. So what can we do? Well, what do we do is this, restricting the domain. So if we restrict the domain of this function, let's say down to just this branch. So we are saying, let's not use the negative numbers. Let's just use 0 and then positive x values, right? Well, if that's what we do, if our domain is now from 0 to infinity, let me just put this, it's from 0 to infinity, right? Then this still is a function, right? This still passes the vertical line test. There is no problems there. But when we reflect this red line, red graph, over the 45-degree line, over the y equals x line, we are actually going to get a reflection that looks like this, right? Now, this one will pass a vertical line test, right? Although this line doesn't really look that vertical. So this one will pass a vertical line test. And if it does, then we know it's a function, right? So now both the original and inverse are functions. So the purpose of this video is to show how and why do we restrict the domain of the function, let's say this red one. The reason we restrict it is because the inverse of it was not a function. So if we want the inverse to be a function, we need to restrict the domain of the original, as we did here. So now domain is from 0 to infinity. And then the reflection of it over 45-degree line, which means the inverse of it, is now a function, right? Okay, and then how do we restrict it? Well, we simply just say, well, we won't use certain values for the domain. In this case, we decided we don't want to use any negative x values, only 0 and positive ones. And then that results in this graph not being a horizontally oriented U-shape, but just a piece of it that now passes a vertical line test. Okay, so now these two graphs are both functions. They're inverses of each other. So that means the red function is so-called one-to-one, because the inverse of it is also a function. If you have questions, post them below. Please like and subscribe. And don't forget to smile.